Hey guys, have you ever had some pretty unexplained symptoms and everybody seems to recommend, why don't you start with probiotics? While you're waiting for your doctor's appointment, you decide to start and lo and behold, nothing happens. Or even worse, in some cases, the worst happens. You start to get more discomfort, more symptoms, and irregular bowel patterns. I'm going to dive in today and tell you, are probiotics really good for you? And do you need them? Or is there a different option? Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Pelto. I am the co-founder of Blue Life RX, and I am here to talk to you about probiotics, tell you the nitty gritty, if they're good for you, if you need them, should you use them, should you not, and also 3 ways should you choose to use them, how to decide, 3 tips on how to decide which ones to use, and also some long-term solutions because we don't want to just be band-aiding everything with probiotics all the time. So let's dive into, first of all, why do people use probiotics? I mean, right now they're being recommended by physicians and by people for any type of bowel issue that we come across, which they say 30 to 50% of people have, but now they're starting to be used for so many other things, such as cognitive anxiety, depression, headaches, and then also a slew of other chronic illnesses. Why is that? So I'm going to share my own personal story first with probiotics. I have 2 very short ones, and then we're going to dive into telling you how I wish I had done this a little bit differently. So number 1, in the realm of cognitive function, probiotics have shown a huge amount of support because the gut and the brain are interconnected. We actually get more signaling from our gut to our brain. It's like when we wonder about the synergistic events of what came first, the anxiety or the tummy ache, we actually really do need to look at, we understand that anxiety can cause distress in the bowels, but oftentimes bowels can cause more distress cognitively. There are 4 messaging pathways from the gut to the brain. So that's a lot. And guess what one of them is? One of them is actually microbiota, which is the fungi, bacteria, archaea, and multitude of other, ecosystem creatures that make us up. There are almost as many, well, they say now that there are as many of them as there are of us. And some people would actually venture to say that there are more of them than there are of us. They are smaller, so you don't see them, but there's actually 1 trillion different species alone. So that's a lot of information to say. Basically, I had done a lot of research prior to my gut core specialty, where it was focused on gut restoration. And I had come across it when we were really in the thick of it of severe nonverbal autism. And so we started on a multitude of different types of probiotics. And I do not regret that at all. We saw great changes in that space. So for us at that time, probiotics were a huge benefit. But now working with lots of autism moms, I know now from experience and personal and professional experience that this is not always the case. So let's dive into a little bit about why that could be. The first thing I want to share is that number 1, not all probiotics are created equal. When I went onto this journey with my son, and again with my husband after, for his IBS, I had done a lot of research. I really understood. I did not just go to the grocery store and grab the first thing off the shelf. No, I made lots of research, and I actually had to order my probiotics very specifically from halfway across the world. They only ship from the UK at the time. So that was a huge thing for me, to understand that not everything was created equal. There are multitudes of families of bacterium in us, and each family would benefit from its own species or genus of probiotic. So now understanding that is sciencey, and we don't need to get into that part of it. All you need to know, though, is that variety is the spice of life, and variety is the spice of importance for your microbiome. So you need to have diversity. That's the ultimate goal. A diverse colon means less symptoms. So that's huge. And our poop being so newly examined, which seems so weird because nobody ever cared about it before. 80% of studies have actually only been done since 2006. That's a huge number. That means that most of that hasn't even been published in medical books that our physicians are learning. And we do need to take this approach from a more curious and low and slow than a dive right in. So dip your toe, don't jump feet first. That's what I'm trying to say. So now that we understand this a little bit more, like our poop is actually so magical. I can't believe I'm saying that, that if you put healthy poop into the colon of unhealthy C. diff, someone who is suffering from C. difficile, which is like an antibacterial or it's a spore that is really hard to overcome, it actually will rebalance the diversity in the gut and get rid of the C. difficile. So the truth of the matter is that our gut health is imperial and interconnected with all of our health everywhere else. The messaging pathways are huge from the gut. It is the second largest neuron area, and there is so much going on there. So when we think about probiotics, if we are giving ourselves just a small strain, we're not getting very much. First of all, the stomach acid can be killing it. And then there's the conversation around food. Is food enough? So here's your 3 tips on should you want to try a probiotic for your condition, whatever that may be, to think about. Does it have a multi-strain genus? That's like the first question. Does it have a multi-strain genus? So that means, does it have multiple groups, not just one group, not just lactobacillus, to help support my gut floration? I think that's kind of a play on words. The second thing is to ask ourselves, how much of it is in there? So this means that at the time of production, when you put this probiotic in your mouth, there is, let's just say 50 billion CPUs, 5 billion CPUs. And this only means that this is the amount that is touching your lips and making its way into your stomach. And once it hits your stomach, it is a free-for-all. Your stomach acid will possibly destroy every last piece of it. You may get some of it go into your small bowel. Obviously, the higher the count, the more chance of it going into your bowel. So that's the second thing that you need to do when you're looking for probiotics. And then the third thing to ask yourself is, am I eating enough foods to even feed the diversity in my body? Did you know that most foods, as it ferments throughout your body, can actually feed as a probiotic, creating an environment that a probiotic would as well? Certain things like cabbage are super beneficial, and prebiotic foods like bananas. There's multitudes. Basically, if you are eating the color of the rainbow and you have anywhere from 30 to 50 different diverse plants in your diet, you are doing you are feeding a diverse and robust microbiome. If you are eating under that and you are throwing in a probiotic, is it really working? Is it really worth it? Or are you just throwing money down the drain? That's a good question to ask ourselves. And it's one that I don't necessarily have the perfect answer for, but I hope that you realize that the microbiome is impacted by all the lifestyle medicine pillars in a huge way. So if your sleep is not at its 8-hour amount, so you give yourself the opportunity for 8 hours a day. If your resilience is depleted and you are stressed, cortisol will help deplete your microbiome. If your toxicity level and you're not living a low tox life, your microbiome will be depleted. If your nutritional deficiencies are high, meaning you're not eating diversely, you're also going to see a depleted microbiome. If you're not exercising, and this is interesting, if you exercise too much, you will deplete your microbiome. If you don't exercise enough, you will deplete your microbiome. So there's this perfect middle ground, 150 minutes a week. And then if you're not connecting with others and creating an environment of resilience, again, going back to stress-free environment, then you are depleting your microbiome. So if you are not doing, if all of those pillars are in balance and you choose to take a microbiome for added support because you are dealing with a specific issue, you will likely see changes. If you do not address all of the rest of the medicine pillars, you will likely either see short-term solution and then having to up your levels more and more till they don't work anymore. So is it important? So will they work? Yes, probably for a short time, but they won't work forever. So we can get prebiotic and probiotic foods from just the foods that we eat. So that's important to note as well. So I hope that this video helped you to make a decision based on a little bit more of an understanding of, is it worth it to just take a probiotic and continue on as the status quo? Or is there a little bit more that I can be doing preventatively that needs to be addressed first? I hope I gave you a bit of food for thought. I hope it answered some questions.